want a love like me, thinking of you, thinking of me, thinking of you type love, or me telling my friends more than I've ever admitted to myself about how I feel about you type love, or hating how jealous you are, but loving how much you want me all to yourself type love, like seeing how your first name just sounds so good next to my last name, and shoot, I wanted to see how far I could get without calling you, and I barely.
My name is Shihan Van Clief. I am a poet, a father, husband, and I've been living off my poetry since '97. It's my full-time job. I'm not sure about being born a poet. I feel like it sounds like the thing to say, like I was born a poet, and it to a certain degree it might be true, but I don't think you're born knowing you're a poet. You know, the difference between like being a writer and any other art is you never hear about prodigy writers, because to write something you have to experience something, and kids haven't experienced enough to write these amazing compositions the way piano or the way someone can just create something in a different way.
Every week, 300 faces watching me speak from right here, waiting to hear something that will make them feel like it was worth them coming. And I oblige them all, reciting an open letter to the things I hold most secret from self and surroundings without judgment, because I can be my own worst everything.
I came from a not too good background. I remember winters not having hot water. I remember having to boil hot water to wash myself. I remember putting the plastic up on the windows to keep the cold from coming in. I remember wearing the same stuff over and over at school. And what's kind of fucked up is that I didn't think that was bad. But the reality is that's not a good situation, especially to have a child in. But when it was happening, it almost seemed like it was normal. The people who raised me, that were all around me, it was my father, my grandmother, my best friends, mothers, all kind of kept me in mode and kept me from veering towards stuff. My father, you know, instilled a lot of good in me. My grandmother too. My grandmother was very, you know, about her money, like keeping what she had. She went through all sorts of hard times, and her telling and me hearing those stories about, you know, being given a dime a day to take the bus to go to school, and she didn't take the bus. She left extra early. She went by her aunt's house who had all these kids, and she would buy a bag of rice, feed her children. Like those things, hearing that, hearing those stories, I think made me who I am. And so telling the stories now and telling my story hopefully inspires in a way too. My first experience with Word was the Scholastic Book Club contests to try and win free books because I wanted to read, but I couldn't afford the books. So I entered the contests, and I entered the one that I did win, where I won a couple of books, was a poem. I wrote a poem because of that. And that was like my first introduction to it. Then after that, it became something that just was happening, something I did. And in the 7th grade, I met the right teacher, and he exposed me to poetry on a different level, exposed me to different authors, different writers, and he gave me assignments every day to read the newspaper every day. And if I couldn't read the paper, at least if I couldn't read the entire thing, to read the front page and the ops section, and make sure I stopped at the words I didn't understand before I continued reading so I comprehend what I read. And it became my everyday. My best friend at the time OD'd. I held him as it happened. And that kind of was the moment, I think, like if there were to be a moment, that would be the closest thing to the moment that made me change how I took responsibility of what I did in my life. And that started with making sure I was together, and then also expressing like the frustration, thoughts, and the feelings that I had, so that I had some kind of outlet.
No one can make me feel more insecure than I can, and that's fine. Because also my best friend, and I comfort and understand any metaphor I use, but sometimes I'm overly judgmental. I guess I need the balance. Because I don't know if I'd have the power to tell me when to stop if I love me too much, so I always hold a little back. And do I love me enough? Yeah. Could I love me more? Who couldn't use more love?
My hope is that, it's not what happens, but my hope is that people who come to see shows or read my work or click on a YouTube video are inspired by it. and it does something to them. Now, I can't control what it does. I hope it's something good. I hope it's something positive. But yeah, I want my work to move people. I want people to feel what I do. It makes them feel a certain way, to want to do more, to be better, or to seek out the betterness in people. Whatever it is, I want it to make some kind of positive impact on somebody. My father is in the Hall of Fame for martial arts. And I grew up my entire life doing martial arts. It was something that I did, like, first of all, because most people who are lucky enough to be raised by their father look up to their fathers when they have good ones. And I looked up to my father. My father was a superhero growing up. My dad is the Black Dragon. And to talk about my father a lot because he was there a lot. My mother joined the military when I was 6. I was 5, about to be 6. And I didn't really see her consistently until I was 14. You know, I don't hold any resentment. And I think I'm not even 100% why not. It's not like I want to resent her. Like, I hear a bunch of poems about fathers leaving their kids for whatever, and the kid being like, fuck him, he left me behind. And I've never thought like that with my mother. And my dad, I don't think would have let me talk about my mother like that. Maybe I had a gift of good understanding early. You know, thinking about how my family influences what I say, what I write about, a lot of it now, especially now, has to do with my family and the creation of my family, having a wife, having children of my own. Those things changed writing in a way that not only was more reflective and vulnerable, it also made me diversify my writing in a way where I also wanted to write stuff that wasn't just for older people. I wouldn't push my children in any direction. I mean, I'm pushing them to finish school, but aside from that, as far as what direction, I want them to hopefully make the right decision. I'm gonna guide them, but I'm not gonna force them to a certain thing. So like, my son likes to draw right now, but the odds of, you know, him being an artist, a full-time artist, is difficult. Just like my daughter being a dancer, it's difficult to be an artist, and I'm gonna explain that to them. Still support them, but I want them to understand what they get into, because their father had to go through this shit. Is difficult. I say this a lot, but I've been Black all my life, and for me, it was always important to change the view that people have of us. Most people, you know, get their impressions about how we are through television and film, and so, or music. I try to make sure, you know, I'm responsible in everything I do, especially when dealing with my words, because you never realize who's being inspired or who is being touched by what you said until after you say it. And once you say it, there's no taking it back because it's already been put out there. So it's kind of be careful the first time. And since I'm a live performer, we do live performance, first time counts. I don't get a second take. My truth is all about consistency, right? Being consistent, and that I'm honest, I'm passionate, I'm genuine, love my family, my friends, and that's the truth I want to spread, and you know, and share. I want to share my truth, because that's what it is in my art. That's my truth.
Form of violence, disturbing, like those who write from the standpoint that being Black is a crutch, unfamiliar, like alone at 75 and outliving every person I made memories with and only forget them all in the end anyway. And it doesn't have to be this abstract. It could be more familiar and function and feel like the clasping of hands, a relationship with my writing identified as the embrace of two lovers.